Hey, Greg. Joe Chats on Tap Sportsnet. Nice to see you as always.
Hey, Joe.
Curious, after a result like there was on Saturday, what has been the message to the guys this week looking ahead to an Orlando team, especially that has gone a long stretch without losing a game, understanding that, you also want to get that result at home?
Yeah, the in the end of the day, it's a loss, right? And so you have to analyze that. But I guess the bigger picture is, the guys lose a ton of confidence. Anytime you're down a touchdown and an extra point, it's not a good thing. And so it was really just about rebuilding that. Talking to the guys about our identity, who we are, really focusing on that. And trying to turn the page. What can we do to avoid, some of the goals we gave up, but also just trying to get the team confident. We played a lot of good soccer throughout this year. That collective 90 minutes was not good soccer, and we need to move forward. At the end of the year, it's just going to count as a loss in that column. It's not going to be nothing more than that, and that's what we need to focus on. And how do we play against a good Orlando team and I think represent ourselves better, because we weren't happy with that.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you again. Looking at the center back position, obviously with Carlos out for a long time, and you gave a debut to Christopher Cupps last week, I'm wondering, where does that position stand for you right now after conceding 7 goals, and if Cupps is in consideration to start after making his debut?
Well, what I'd say is it's very difficult when in the last 2 games you gave up 10 goals, right? So you have to look for some type of solutions. And, in particular, we did not feel like the back line performed well in the last 2 games. And, it's evaluating that. And I think anyone would be in consideration. Any defender who's on the roster would be in consideration, like they are every game, every match day. We evaluate training, we evaluate match performance, and we make decisions, who's gonna step on the field on that match day. So, I think it'd be fair to say that, after a performance, 2 consecutive performances like that, we would look across the entire roster to see if we can improve our performance.
Tim Ozzie, Minaret 97. Greg, thanks for taking the time as always. So last night, or on Saturday, you apologized to the fans that traveled because of the poor result. One thing that the fans at home haven't been able to see is their team win a game yet. Is there starting to feel like there's added pressure to give the people that are showing up at Soldier Field every week that win in front of, like that win for everyone that shows up and comes? Or does that build pressure in any way, or does it make it more challenging at some point, just going into the 3rd month of the season without that win?
Well, I think as a starting point, I think it's fair to acknowledge the effort that, I actually didn't even see the fans because of the lighting. I'm walking off the field. I didn't even see them in the stadium, but I think it's fair to acknowledge that the fans that did travel, didn't make that type of effort to see that type of performance. And that was what the apology was about. In terms of our home record, it's really, it's more about what we want to do. We're disappointed that we haven't won at home yet. And I don't think there's added pressure due to the home fans and everything. We always want to, put on an entertaining performance, and we want to win at home. And we haven't done that. So for us, we've been frustrated, and we want to, get that home win and get rolling again.
Alex Campbell from CHGO. Greg, obviously Orlando coming off a weekend where they won following 3 straight 0-0 draws. This is a team that sets up with a back 5 that can be very defensive. Obviously, Oscar Parejo well from your time around the league. What about the way they set up do you view as a particular challenge with trying to create attacks against this team, given how strong they've been defensively?
Yeah, I've been seeing a back 4, them defending in a 4-4-2. They build up in a 3-2 shape. Typical Oscar teams are very good in defensive transition. I always remember about him. I think when you think about coaches that had an impact on the league, I think he certainly had an impact for how his teams transitioned, both offensively and defensively. We all know how important that those phases of the game are, but he really puts emphasis into that. And you see this year, I think they're fourth in the league in creating chances off of pressure regains. So, they're at it again, and they have a talented roster. They're in a good run of form. And, for us, it's another good opportunity. And, that's the way we're looking at it. We think we have a good team also. We know we didn't show it last week, but it will be another opportunity for us.
Hey, Coach Jose Gudiño, Conexión Deportiva. Beyond the result, Greg, what do you think the team must show to reconnect with the fans?
I think there's been a really good connection with the fans this year. I really feel a lot of positive energy. I know the team feels a lot of positive energy, and the team and the fans just want us to win, and they want us to entertain them. And I completely understand that. So, I think it's nice when we have homegrown players in the field, and it's nice when we have young players in the field, right? But at the end of the day, the fans want to see entertaining soccer, and they want us to win. But I think the relationship with the fans has been very good so far.
We're going to go to the Zoom real quick, and then we'll come back in the room. So we'll go to Jim Alexander from Real Talker.
Hey, Coach. Are you able to provide an update on Chris Mueller? Is this a player that you envision coming back to the team at some point this season? Is there a place in the lineup and a roster for him? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, we do envision him coming back. We think he's weeks away, not months away. So hopefully we'll see him shortly.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
Greg, La Fiera Deportiva. I have a curious questions about Soldier Field, and now the guys are going to play in SeatGeek. Is there any possibility that the team could train in Soldier Field? Because I remember when the game in Miami, one of the players from Miami said the ball runs really faster over there, and also concerning the SeatGeek stadium. The conditions are not very great in the field over there. So my question is the team is going to train because maybe the wind conditions are different inside the stadium than when they train over here?
Yeah, our focus is on utilizing this training ground. We think it's an amazing training ground. The field is set up the same dimensions of Soldier Field. So, we think we're in good shape there. I think, the particular Miami game, for example, with a little bit of wind, it dries out pretty quickly. And I think it was actually a really slow field. And that had, some effect on the game. But, the conditions and the field is what it is, right? Both teams have to play on it. And for us, it's, it's really about, applying ourselves and working together as a team and, really focusing on things we can control rather than what's outside of our control.
Hey, Greg, one more from me. A question about the midfield for this week. Romani Kwame's been back in training.
Yep.
Didn't see Kellen out there today, so just curious about an update with him and just what your expectations are for the midfield, understanding that Sergio Orhel Jr. was on the bench for all of last week for the first time this season.
Yeah, Kellen picked up a little bit of a shoulder injury. We held him out of training purposely today. We think he will be back for the game, potentially. Romy, where we have to get update from the medical department as to what his status is for the game, but he has trained this week. So that would be great to have him back. And then everyone else is on board.
Hey, Greg. So obviously the focus right now is on Saturday, but the team has a midweek game. So like a two-parter with this. One, can you talk a little bit just about the U.S. Open Cup and the significance of the Fire being back in it after sending the Fire 2 last year? And can you talk about the challenges of having to rotate the squad some with, 3 games in the space of 8 days?
Yeah, the reason why we build the team in the way we do and that we train so intensely and and give players opportunities is that when you come to these weeks, we should be able to handle it. There are teams throughout the world that play multiple weeks throughout the season, 3 games, and it's just part of it. So we don't think there needs to be a massive squad rotation. We may need to rotate 3 or 4 players, but overall, we're looking forward to actually a 3-game week. In terms of the Open Cup, it's nice to be back playing in it. historic tournament. When you get to play teams that, different divisions that you normally don't face is a fun challenge. And for us, we know I think you're 5 games away from, playing for a trophy, and that's exciting. So we'd love to, to be able to compete. For some of the players, it'll be their first opportunity in the Open Cup. It'll be an interesting experience.
I have one more availability question. Some of the results have been tough since Leo Barroso went down injured. So I'm wondering if you have an update on his availability and maybe a timeline for him coming back.
He's out for another couple weeks, not months, weeks.
Do you think it's fair to say that some of the challenges have been in that area of the field?
I think it's, with, center back injuries and fullback injuries, I think it adds up. But again, I think it'd be doing the guys who are playing a disservice by chalking it up to injuries. Guys have gotten opportunities, and I think we know that the performance can be improved.